Hey, happy Wednesday! Welcome everyone to Wonderland Wednesdays, very first official episode of Inside Allison's Wonderland. So I want to say thanks to everybody who's tuning in live. Jojo Joker, Princess Kristen, Bradley, Jeff Goodman, hey! A lot of blasts from the past right now. I'm so glad you guys are tuning in live. Basically, this show is a reboot of Inside Allison's Wonderland, which was an interview show that I created back in 2009, so 11 years ago, for those of you that aren't good at math. And I wanted to reboot it and sit down with some people working in animation today and just get a different broad perspective on everybody's jobs, what people do, and how their position within the animation industry connects with others. So today, for our first interview, we're going to be interviewing Tom Krajewski. Tom is an animation writer, as well as a story editor and a co-author of this new graphic novel, which both me and my son love. It's called Primer. It's all ages, and it's out now on DC Comics. So definitely go check that out. Hey, Sunshine, so good to see you. Okay, so Tom is here now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask him to join. And live. Let me know when you're there, Tom. Look, I even brought visual stimuli for you. So yeah, hopefully everybody's doing great today. We might take some questions at the end. So if you have any burning desired questions that you want Tom to answer, just be sure to let me know. So yeah, hey Jill, it's good to see you guys. Yeah, so I have known Tom for, gosh, more than 10 years. Tom is an Emerson College alum, those of you guys that know, that's where I went to college. And we didn't know each other in school, but quickly upon graduating and moving to Los Angeles, I was looking to connect with people that worked in animation, and somebody connected us. And so went and had coffee at a coffee shop in Burbank right down the street. And yeah, and so the rest is history. So we're having a little bit of trouble. Let me see if I can invite you again, Tom. So yeah, the idea is we're going to try and do this every Wednesday. There you are.
I made it. I figured it out.
Thank you. It's not that simple, and yeah. So
yeah.
For you.
I apologize. I was trying to log in, and I don't know anything about like Instagram, obviously, and so I was trying to like make sure I, accepted your request, and I'm just like, whatever. But I'm here. Hi.
Well, thanks for joining us. It's so good to see your face.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. I haven't actually seen you in person probably for, well, a year, maybe, I guess, maybe. I don't know.
For those of you guys, I mean, I don't know if this is like TMI, but we live in the same neighborhood. So the last time I saw you, I think I was on my bicycle, my pink and green bicycle, and you were walking to the post office.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, well, thanks for having me here. It's really cool to, talk stuff.
So yeah, do you want to quickly just kind of talk about your position, some of the shows you've worked on, and the different capacities that you've worked on them?
Oh yeah, sure. Like right now what I do is I'm a story editor, which is basically the head writer of the show. So I'm in charge of all the writing and making sure that what the producers want or the creators want, or make sure that the scripts kind of match their tone and what they're going for, because every show is usually pretty different. So they need like a story editor like myself to kind of like make the show exactly what they want. So
you are the ship captain of the writing department.
That's me, the ship captain. Yeah, I'm a captain. That makes me sound important. I like that. Better than story editor.
You need like a little.
Yeah, that would be great. I worked on like a bunch of shows, starting at Nickelodeon back in the day, and the bigger name shows I've worked on are like Ninja Turtles, The Fairly Odd Parents, Buddy Thunderstruck, which is a show on Netflix that I encourage you all to check out. It's a stop motion animation show by the guys who make Robot Chicken. So it's really wacky, and it is family friendly. It's a little edgy, but you can watch it with your kids or, whatever. But so yeah, a bunch of different cartoons. Working on some stuff now. Big secret show for Apple TV Plus. And it's just a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So how did you make the transition from, I mean, I know you've been a staff writer as well as a freelance writer. First, do you want to tell our viewers kind of the difference between writing on staff and doing freelance?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny because like pretty much everything, there's so much in animation now these days that is freelance. There used to be this trend where us writers, they'd hire a lot of staff writers on the show. So you'd go into Nickelodeon or Disney and there'd be like, I don't know, 5 or 6 writers staffed on a show, and you'd all be getting episodes to write. And now, they realize they can kind of just farm it out to a freelance writer. So as a freelance writer, which is kind of what I do now. I'm just working from home and, just a lot of emails, a lot of Zoom calls. And it's really, just kind of, I miss being in the studio, but because of the pandemic, we can't do that.
Yeah.
What was the question? Something about ducks? I don't remember. I wasn't paying attention. Hats. I remember hats.
The freelance versus staff writer is it more or less determined by like where you work, if you're working from home or you're working in the studio?
Yeah, I mean,
episodes per season.
Yeah, it's well, freelance, really just means you're working from home and you can take on a bunch of different shows at once. Like, I still do freelance for other work. I am technically staffed on the show I'm the head writer on now, story editor. So I am technically staffed, but they have offices in France. This one show I'm working on, it's a co-production with the BBC and a French company and an American company. So there's no like distinct set of offices to go into. So I'm technically freelancing on that, but I am staffed in a way, I guess you could say. Yeah. It's a strange combination, but so it works.
I guess I'll have to ask this question in 2 parts, but what is your average day like as a writer?
This is a good question. There's a lot of goofing off involved because I need like that mental, I need to like really be happy in my personal life so I can do good work. So, I wake up, usually 7:30. I'm pretty good at getting up at 7:30 every day, even on weekends. And, coffee, relax, take a walk for an hour, come back, work out, lunch. And then maybe I'll start work at like 1 o'clock and get like a good 3 hours of work in. Because that's like my most productive time of the day is like after I eat, after I work out, after I've kind of just like, got to relax. Yeah. And then after that, it's, it used to be the bars, but now I'm just hanging at home. But yeah, it's really just like once I can find a few hours in the day that I'm inspired to write, then I'll work. But, everybody's different. I know some friends who like write all day long. And I'm like, how do you guys write at nighttime? I'm like, I'd rather just like chill some more, like, or early in the morning. I don't get it. So it's just different for everybody. But, my day just consists of, I will occasionally have Zoom calls and checking a bunch of emails, asking me where the scripts are, where the outlines are and all that. And, so it's a lot of that. And, the day is just basically just me trying to figure out the funny jokes that I can put in the script. So even when I'm taking my walks in the morning, I'll often think about, how to write that story. It's a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's different for everybody.
The show that you're story editing right now, are you guys doing writers' rooms on Zoom, and how often do you do those?
Yeah, we do that, probably like once every 2 months, and it's weird. It's definitely weird. It was a lot better when, I was at Nickelodeon and, you're in the room and you have everybody just like throwing stuff out back and forth, talking over each other, goofing off, laughing. Now it's just more, professional, which I don't like because everybody has to be given their chance to talk and it just becomes less fun, but we still get it done. It's really just, on the Zoom call, we'll have however many people, like, I think we have a bunch of freelance writers on the show. I think like up to 10 writers for our show. And, the Zooming aspect is definitely...
Is it adults? Is it a kid show or adult show?
Oh, yeah, it's a kid's show. So generally the stuff that I'm writing is in the age range of 6 to 11. Okay. So any typical Disney Nickelodeon shows, 6 to 11, yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And you've written for some pretty classic shows. Scooby Doo.
Oh, yeah.
Let me think. As I was doing my research last night, the Scooby Doo Guess Who series.
Uh-huh.
My son and I are obsessed with Scooby Doo, and we just finished Mystery Inc., which is super scary, and I probably should not have let my but I really loved it, so I was like on board. I was like, okay, you can watch this.
Right.
But now we do, and he actually loves it. We watched
good.
Your episode that you've written a couple, but the one that we watched starred Steve Urkel as an Urkelbot. And it was just such a cool mashup. I mean, Scooby-Doo for me was something that I watched all the time growing up. So then to see the reboots and have millennial jokes thrown in there and Steve Urkel was very fun. As a parent, you want to be, hopefully want to be watching a lot of stuff with them. Of course, sometimes you just put it on so you can cook dinner or whatever. But the show, and it was really fun to watch,
Yeah, thanks. The cool thing about Scooby Doo and writing on that show is that, the show's been around since the 70s. So the kids in the 70s are watching it now as adults, and even in the 80s and the reruns. So those adults still love Scooby Doo. So they'll tune in with their kids. And then plus with all the guest stars we have on the show, those are things that also the adults love to see. So yeah, when we had Urkel on there, I was watching Family Matters as a kid. And then I wrote the one with Mark Hamill, and I was like, okay. And they know, the adults love to tune in to see the heroes, or I would say Urkel is a hero from your childhood. Mark Hamill, yes. But that's one of the more fun shows I've gotten to write on, actually, because it was just so goofy and really cool.
Production give you the guest star, or would you get to pitch? Were you like, I got to pitch Urkel,
Yeah, no, that's something I never would have thought to do, is pitch Urkel. I think what happened was technically, Warner Brothers owns Scooby Doo. So when they decided they were going to make the show and that they wanted to include all these celebrities, they're like, okay, who does Warner Brothers have a good relationship with, or who is Warner Brothers already making a show for? And I mean, I don't know how they got Urkel. I guess that must have been a show back in the day that was part of the Warner Brothers, library of Family Matters. So it was them that came to us with a list of celebrities to contact that they could get for the show. And it's funny because I got to write one for Dolly Parton, and then I forget what happened. I was really excited to write for Dolly Parton, I'm a big fan of 9 to 5, her movie, and so then for whatever reason she couldn't end up doing it, so they had to change the guest star. I don't know who they changed it to. That was after I was gone, but it's kind of a dream to write for all these celebrities, so that's part of the bonus.
Such a kick out of it. I think Sia was in one episode. It must just be fun to get to be a day player on that show. You wrote for Looney Tunes.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did the new one that just came out. Oh, maybe actually more than a few years ago. Yeah, it was called Wabbit at the time. They rebranded Bugs Bunny as a Wabbit, the W, and then changed it to Looney Tunes. That was also really fun. That was another iconic character I got to write for. It's always cool when you can write for something that you watched as a kid, like the Ninja Turtles or Scooby Doo or Iron Man, whatever.
Is that challenging though? Do you find that there's more hoops to jump through because you have to stay true to the characters that already exist?
It's probably different with every show, like if we're rebooting something, but for the most part, the stuff that I've written on that's kind of established characters, it's usually pretty easy because, I grew up with those characters. So writing for Ninja Turtles was easy. Writing for Bugs Bunny was easy. I think it's just because, I don't know, I've watched so many cartoons, you just feel like you know them. And I don't think anything has really changed where we get a new cartoon and they're like, hey, can you not do what we did in the original? It's usually just kind of do the same thing because that's what works and people love it.
Right. Although it would be ironic if like you had seen an episode 30 years ago that you then didn't realize and plagiarized because it was just like, I have this great idea. And they're like, no, we did that in 82.
Yeah, it's funny. I do find myself accidentally plagiarizing Simpsons jokes, I think, a lot. Like, yeah, I'll like write a script and then, put a joke in there that I think is great. And I'm like, oh yeah, great joke. And then I'll see the Simpsons rerun and I'll be like, oh, I stole that joke. I didn't realize it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same when you're writing music. It's like,
Oh
you
yeah.
got to check a riff and ask a few people, like, this song's been stuck in my head. Did I like this, a song? And you're like, I make sure that I didn't take it from.
Yeah, I bet that must be frustrating when you find out that maybe
Think about the collective unconsciousness, that this idea that all these ideas have already been created, and there's the myth of story, and these archetypes are there for a reason because they resonate and they ring true with all of us.
yeah.
So when we're pulling ideas out of the collective consciousness, clearly, we're not the only ones. I had an amazing what I thought was an amazing idea for an animated character called Love Monster. Love Monster, who like loves you so hard it like breaks all your bones. And then was just like this character that I cosplayed, Sunshine. If he's still on there, he would know Love Monster. But then I realized someone had created a book series for Love Monster in England. And so, I mean, it's not the most off the wall idea. Love and monsters, I mean, those are two common archetypes, but it was funny to see a very similar idea out there. So
that happens like a lot too. Like when I think of like ideas for new shows or screenplays or whatever, and then I find out someone else has already done it. It's just billions of people in the world and tons of creative people. You're bound to have the same ideas, so it's kind of a bummer, but it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to go pick the next one out.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of, I mean, I know we're all pretty much in isolation right now, but what are some things that you do to fill your creative cup?
Yeah, good question. I do to fill my creative cup. I have so much creativity and so many ideas. I'm sorry?
Drugs, lots of drugs.
Oh, well, yeah, alcohol, sure. But I like to be around people a lot, and I'm not like a super social guy,
Mm-hmm.
but I used to go to, out every night, and I'd go to the bars, even if it was alone, just to, like soak in the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helped. I could just sit there and think alone, with a drink and just like jot down ideas, just like taking in that's usually what gets me, a lot of ideas, sitting alone in a place where there's a lot of noise. So this quarantine has really stifled that a lot because you can't really go anywhere or be around people. But yeah, creativity, I always have a ton of ideas. It's trying to find the inspiration to actually sit and write it down. It's like I get jaded sometimes. And I'm like, oh yeah, who's going to buy this show? Or like, what are the chances? But if I really get inspired for whatever reason, then I never know when that's going to strike. Then I'll sit and write for hours and hours.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. So the inspiration really comes with like, did you ever read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield?
You're the second person to talk to me about that in like the past week. I know I haven't actually.
Fine. It's a great book on creativity and, this belief that we are going to war to bring our art out there because procrastination and putting things off and everything else will get in the way before doing the most important thing, which is for you writing.
Yeah.
For me. First my thing at the moment. But for those of you guys that are just tuning in, this is Inside Allison's. Oh, thanks, Jill. Thanks for tuning in. Inside Allison's Wonderland. It's a show where we go through the looking glass and down the rabbit hole. I feel like into the groovy world of animation should be the end of that tagline. But it's basically inside the actor's studio, but specifically in animation and video games. So if you like it, feel free to share, feel free to subscribe. I think you can do this little, like, there's an airplane at the bottom of your screen. You can send it to anybody that you think would think it was cool. I don't know what this other button does. Maybe I should not push it. Oh, great. We have some questions. Hey,
Nice.
cool. You've got a fan. We're going to switch gears to primer in just 1 second. I just had a couple more. No, actually, people want to know. We all want to know. Timer, timer. I have my. So, this you co-authored with Jen Moreau. You want to tell us a little bit about the kernel of this idea?
Yeah, sure. So, for those of you that don't know, maybe if you're tuning in, you do know, Primer, the character, is a 13-year-old girl who has 33 different body paints, and each body paint has a different superpower. So she puts on 3 different paints at a time. That's as much as she can put on, and then she goes and fights crime. So she has 33 paints and powers. With, I think, if you can put on 3 at a time, you have. I think she has over 5,000 combinations of powers she can use. So this is a character that Jennifer, my writing partner, and I conceived about 2 years ago. I think just about 2 years ago, and it was something that DC really resonated. They loved it when we pitched them the idea, and so from there we got to write this 134-page graphic novel that's out now and was #1 on Amazon. So we were really happy. Check it out if you like superheroes. It's good for adults are loving it too, even though she's a 13-year-old girl. We kind of wrote it that way because if you know your comics, you know the Teen Titans. She's a teenager. We want her to join the Teen Titans, kind of a thing. But yeah, just a fun, goofy character. Really good story that's positive. It's very, I think, empowering for kids, girls and boys, everyone in general, I think, about this girl who kind of had a tough time with her family, but finds, inspiration to become a hero. So that's the rough.
Oh, thank you. Immortal Library says that they loved it, and his or her daughter is artsy, so it's something they can look up to. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
my son and I loved it too. My son is 4.5 now, and we both loved it. I mean, we blew through it in 3 nights or something. And I mean, but yeah, Ashley, this character,
Uh-huh.
she feels really authentic. I do like that she has this dark past and this, relationship with her dad that I think feels very relatable for any 13-year-old girl,
Yeah.
let alone somebody who, is dealing with everything that she's been dealing with. But she has so much hope and just a great sense of spirit. So, was this your first incarnation of Ashley, or was she a TV idea?
No, yeah, this was the first. It was strictly going to be a comic book. I think we were sitting around talking one day, and Jennifer and I had been working in animation for so long. Actually, you know what? I think you caught me. I think you're right. I think originally, that's a good point. We did want this to be an animated show, and then we started typing up a 1-pager, 1 sheet of it, and then DC came to us and was through Jennifer, she had these connections at DC, and they just happened to be looking for new characters. And so we're oh, maybe we take this animated series idea and turn it into, obviously, a comic book. It only makes sense. She's a superhero. So no, that was, yeah, good point. I forgot. We kind of started, she started her life as an animated show.
Is there more coming?
Well, we'll see. I mean, there's some news that we'll be putting out hopefully soon. But things are working. What's that?
Nothing. Just
Okay.
spoil anything.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this though, because I tell this to everybody. We do have, we get asked a lot about the sequels, the future books, and we have ideas for the next 4 books. So we have this giant storyline that encompasses her and her family and her new family with new villains and crazy cool new ideas. So hopefully we'll be able to tell all of them. Just a matter of time, I guess. Yeah. So, and there's other things in play.
People don't lie.
Yeah.
How did you get connected with Gretel? Is it Gretel Lusky, the artist? her artwork is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And her style, I feel it adheres to the comic book style, but it's so feminine, and that's one of the things I really loved about it. And my son too, like his favorite color is rainbow. So, I mean, so
Yeah.
how did you connect with the artist Gretel?
So DC Comics brought a few different artists to us. I think they brought like three different artists, and we were asked to choose from them really. And Gretel's really really wanted to do the book, and then once we kind of saw her stuff, we're like, yeah, this seems to make the most sense. And because yeah, Primer is a colorful character, and I think lots of kids, like when I was a kid, I loved seeing lots of colors.
Yeah.
And Gretel tends to do a lot of amazing colorful work. She has this amazing Instagram feed where you can see her art, and it was just like the natural fit.
Great, great. What's her handle that you can share with us?
That's a good question.
We'll
I'll
share
have
it.
to look it up. Yeah, I'll share it afterwards. I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, Gretel Lusky. She should be very easy to find if you
Yeah.
search. Yeah.
Gretel and Lusky are not super common.
Yeah.
Where is she based out of?
What's that?
Where is she from?
Okay, so the story takes place in Washington, D.C. So, and the reason we did that is because I think originally we had pitched, oh yeah, let's have this take place in Gotham, because with Gotham being so dark, we thought it might be kind of a cool contrast to have this bright, colorful superhero show up, in Batman's.
Gretel's. Thank you, Immortal Library. Just shared Gretel's Instagram.
Thank you.
You guys can all go follow Gretel and see more of her artwork.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
I was just saying, so yeah, originally we pitched Gotham, and then we pitched, I think, another Metropolis or some other DC towns. And then DC Comics was like, how about we have this take place in Washington, D.C., because that's where the Justice League is. I think that's what they said. That's where the Justice League is. I actually forget, they move around. So we're like, yeah, okay, we'll put Primer where the Justice League is, so in case you need to, help them out.
Yeah. And so what was the most fun of writing this?
I think, just the whole process was so incredibly fun, but I guess the coolest part of it was seeing the artwork come in.
Yeah.
And going back and forth with Gretel on designs and having her give us, the concepts, her rough sketches, and then just going back and forth to kind of figure out, what it should all really look like. Writing it was a blast too. It was just, we got to kind of go nuts and just kind of really, we had a lot of freedom to kind of tell the story we wanted to. Like DC would, guide us, but they never gave us these steadfast demands or rules. They were really good at letting us tell what we wanted to. So we wrote this like a movie. If you ever, if you know anything about screenplay structure or how movies are, we kind of pretty much follow all those kinds of beats. And so it was kind of fun to put a movie in a graphic novel.
Do you want to just real quick say, so you have your midpoint and
Yeah, sure. If I can remember, as I have to read my own book, Primer.
maybe you just have to read the whole novel. For anybody that's just tuning in, hey Joe, and anybody else, this is Inside Allison's Wonderland, and right now, I wonder, am I below you or you above?
You're above me. I think that's for the eyesight on the camera. So
You're below me, actually. So I guess
oh,
it's the same for you and me. I was thinking,
yeah,
yeah,
you're up there.
it would be better if you were higher. I could make better eye contact with you. But Primer, Joe, Primer? Tom is the co-author of Primer. I love this graphic novel. I read it in 3 days with my son, and he's only 4.5. So there's also, violence in comic books and television is real. And for a long time, we didn't want my son to see any kind of guns, or, we don't want him to play with guns just because I feel like they're not a toy, and he's a boy and he's drawn to them. And there is not, of course there's action, but I don't feel like there's a ton of violence. So yes, I give this 2 thumbs up for kids.
Thank you. First off, that you make a good point. Actually, what you just said is exactly what DC kind of did ask us for. There's a scene in there where she ends up fighting a street gang, and they're dressed as knights. They're dressed as medieval knights. Originally, we had this scene where it's two street gangs in cars driving down the street shooting guns at each other. And DC was like, hey, you know what? This is, we want this to families to be able to read this. Can we just remove the guns? And we're like, okay. So we came up with like a silly street gang because of that. And because of that, people love this silly street gang. And I'm so proud that we created this gang. But because of the gun note, yeah, we wanted it to be, everybody. It's stuff that I wouldn't have thought to do, but DC knew what they were doing.
Totally. And, when we grew up, I mean, there was guns and everything, and it was, but the world has just shifted in so many ways with, it's something that we're all dealing with a lot younger and being more conscious of as parents. And, but kids love action, and my kid will still pick up a stick. Where do you get it from? It's not, I think there's like an innate pull of that kind of thing, but it's finding that balance where, for our family, we also don't want to villainize something so much that it then becomes more appealing because it's taboo. Yeah. So we try to talk about things and look for exciting content that strikes that itch for action without being violent.
Yeah, like in this book, Primer is
proton tags. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's my buddy Greg.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg. I haven't talked to. He's my old buddy from college.
Nice.
I wouldn't be in LA if it hadn't been for this guy Greg that just spoke up. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
No, he just said he was leaving, so I was being nice.
I'm like, okay. What? Well, so Greg went to Emerson?
No, his brother did. So Greg got me to transfer I was at UMass Amherst. And then Greg introduced me to his brother, who was at Emerson. I was like, oh, that's a film school. I can go learn to write, movies instead of take my science classes. Where did what's it?
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up just outside Boston in a town called Winchester, Massachusetts. So I commuted, Winchester. So I commuted to school, like taking the train every day because that school is very expensive.
No.
Yeah, definitely, Greg. We'll catch up. I'll hit you up, buddy. Yeah, sorry. Now I'm talking to all your people.
Is it available? Chester, I believe it is available.
Tim Malcolm, yeah. It was at Tim. If this is the guy I'm thinking it is. Tim, yeah. It was at Bookends, and they sold out. So go tell go tell the people at Bookends to order some more because I know they're out. But thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Winchester. Go Sachems.
Yeah. Just tuning in right now, this is Inside Allison's Wonderland. It's an interview show where we sit down with some of the top talent working in video games, like this guy, Tom. This is our very first episode back because the show was a web series, and then it was a podcast, and then I got lazy, and now there's a global pandemic, so there's no Comic-Cons or ability to interact, and I thought this would be a good time to reboot the show. So thank you so much, Tom, for being my first guest. A lot of people asking where they can get signed copies. Do you have that available on your website?
Oh, I got to start that website. First off, that's my friend Neil, this guy down there. Yeah. And he's going to get 100 signed copies because I need to up my numbers on Amazon. So I'll buy 100 copies and I'm just going to ship them to him.
Did you guys? He's on for a free copy. You pay. That's so interesting. So from start to finish, what year did you guys start working on Primer?
Okay, so we started it about just 2 years ago. We originally came up with the idea. We came up with the idea early 2018, and then DC bought it from us in I guess the summer of 2018. So we went right to work, and it was finished. I think we finished writing last summer. But the artwork takes so long because Gretel is doing, she's doing all the heavy lifting, the artist. So it takes a long time for the artwork. So 2 years ago, from conception to it hitting the shelves, 2 years. So yeah.
That's actually not bad. I mean, novels, regular novels take so much longer. So 2 years actually feels to me speedy. Would it feel like speedy to you?
Well, you and I both work in animation, right? So I generally see animations from start to finish too when they start the show. Yeah, it'll take longer if you're working on an animated show that you're pitching. Like that development can take forever. So in terms of this, yeah, it actually was it was pretty much was a smooth, quick process for what I expected.
That's great.
Yeah.
I said we were going to go about 30 to 40 minutes, and we're at 35 right now. So I want to just reach it out to anybody that's been listening to see if they might have any questions. For anybody that's just tuning in, this is Tom Krajewski. He's an animation writer, story editor, and co-author of the new DC Comics graphic novel Primer. Which you can get one on Amazon. In which category? In books, in all books.
All books, yeah.
In food, so don't eat it. What's number one in graphic novels or kids? Or?
Oh yeah, this one is specifically. I'm sorry. Sometimes the audio on these things is so weird. You cut out when I talk, and I cut out when you talk, or something. So I missed some of the things you're saying. I'm sorry. It's in the DC Comics graphic novels section. Yeah, I mean, you just type in Primer graphic novel in Amazon, it'll show up. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And how is the process of working with your co-writer, Jen?
Super easy. This is actually the first thing we ever written together. And we'd been together for a long time. It was surprisingly easy. I would usually do like the first pass of the script and give it to Jen because, what do I know about being a 13-year-old girl? I haven't been one in a long time. But no, so Jen would kind of like fix that dialogue, and in the story wise, she was really good at making it sound like it wasn't coming from a 43-year-old man. But it was really easy because she and I were just like so excited to be doing this. No trouble. Yeah.
We do have another question coming in from Sir Stony Island. How do you go about weaving in social or heavier issues in the work in YA for young adult?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had to do it very carefully because obviously it sounds like you've read the book because there is a little bit of a heavier storyline in there with her backstory, and we just kind of balanced it with the humor and the heart because although the character kind of had a rough past, we want to show her being fighting against that and just kind of like being her own goofy self. So we had to, be careful with how many scenes we'd put in with her real father. I think it's probably different for every book, but it's pretty light in this book compared to other ones I've read. So,
yeah. And now's the time where there's so many issues on the table with everything that's going on politically and Black Lives Matter. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of new voices coming out in comics in the next few years. So that's very exciting. Primer turning into an animated series?
Well, I will tell you this. So one reason DC Comics did want this is because they know that Jennifer and I come from an animation background. Yeah. So in case if it were to go to animated series, then Jennifer and I would be the ones in charge of that, which is one reason they brought us on. We know all about animation. We know how we could turn this into an animated show or live action show. So we'll see. I can't, say anything yet or whatever, But thank you for the question.
We're all rooting for you. I mean,
thank you.
It would be an amazing show. Yeah. The characters are great.
Thank you.
Any more questions before we say goodbye to Tom Krajewski? So the show is going to be happening every Wednesday now at 6 p.m. Wonderland Wednesday.
Wonderland Wednesday.
Sure. So you can tune in next week. Well, we might have a special guest, so I don't want to blow any surprises, but future guests we have coming up are Evan Spiridellis, co-creator of Storybots. We're going to have Melissa Hutchinson, the voice actress. Oh, you're so welcome, Barry. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, Barry.
Barry? You know Barry?
No, I just said I don't. I just said thanks.
Thanks, Barry.
Thanks.
And there's definitely, I'm open to hearing your suggestions of who you would like to see on the show. So you can always drop me a DM. Mike Collinsworth is probably going to be dropping on the show in the next couple weeks. And we have a lot of animation and games to talk about. So thank you so much, everybody that tuned in. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks so much, Tom.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.